Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Heretic Hammer Podcast. I am your host, Marshall, and this is my co-host, Dylan.
Hello, hello.
And, I tried to plan to have some type of non sequitur to go into this episode. I was like debating doing some type of like thing. I did want to note, though, I do have one, but I just want to know, like, I didn't have a great like way to segue into it. And it's unfortunately that I've recently discovered a truly glaring issue with our Death Watch episode.
Oh, okay.
And that is part of the origins, the founding of the Death Watch, if you will. I think there's a few details that I definitely could have had better had I known more about the War of the Beast book series. However, learning this stuff has also taught me how I don't know when and if I'll ever want to actually do a whole series on the War of the Beast. Because it's really bad.
Yeah. Bad quality or bad, like
everything.
Bad. Yeah.
And the reason being, I will tell you this, because I missed their key founding phrase, which was when they were, I don't remember the full context. It's slightly a little bit rough of a way to give it to you, but they're having an argument. These first founding Death Watch members are having kind of an argument with each other. You know, they don't really see their point. They're trying to figure it out. I mean, they're obviously being kind of influenced, but some of them are kind of being told they shouldn't even exist. And at one of them point is, it's like, they're like, what are we? And the other goes, we watch from death.
Can't argue with that. I mean, that makes sense.
I heard that the first time.
Kind of literal, but
and my first thought was wait, say that again moment. And I'm like, holy shit. You cannot tell me that is how they came up with the name Death Watch. It was from saying that they watched from death and then pulled a Fantastic Four. You can't tell me. Legitimately, when I saw that, I watched that movie in theaters. Granted, this was like week 2 on a Sunday when literally there was no one else in the theater except for me and my sister. Because we were by ourselves, we were chuckling and, rasping at the screen the whole time because, it's not rude when no one's there. When he said that, in that film, when he said that and the title screen hit, my jaw dropped and I yelled no. It was like I was just no. Which I think is a just reaction. However, my reaction to that was not the topic of this week's episode, Dylan. By the way, what is this week's episode?
Well, speaking of war,
yeah,
as we quite frankly often are, no matter what series we're talking about, it seems like we're always addressing war in some way.
It never changes, some say.
Yeah, in some cases they say war never changes. There's other people that say war has changed. I believe that was David Hayter as Solid Snake who had to say the line "war has changed," if I remember correctly, for the video game Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. And David Hayter knows a thing or two about war. Not through actual service, but through his history of voice acting. And
I was wondering where that was going. Stick with us. Stick with us here.
Everyone thinks of, hang on, let me cook. everyone thinks of David Hayter as the voice of Solid Snake. There's a smaller contingency that's like, oh yeah, he's the guy that, co-wrote the X-Men films, the horrible line, what does the toad do when it's caught in a lightning storm, whatever.
Yeah.
People attach that to him and joke on him for it. But for the most part, everybody knows him for Solid Snake. But David Hayter has had a pretty storied career. And I have silently just kind of sitting in the back while the rest of the world cheers for Snake, as they should. He's a great character. But I have always just kind of sat in the back with my arms crossed, sunglasses on, indoors, and just said to myself, if only they knew about Bernie.
If only they knew that
these kids
was Sean Barker.
If they only knew how cool Bernie was. But there isn't a Bernie in Warhammer. No. The Bernie I'm talking about exists in Mobile Suit Gundam. Oh. Which is why it's time for another episode of Dylan's Counterattack. Excuse me.
What were you about to say?
I almost said Char. I was sticking too close to the script.
Oh.
Char is real and he's taking over for me this week. No, what's actually happening is that after having now seen, we've reviewed and we've discussed several pieces of Mobile Suit Gundam media. We are now touching upon a series that has been one of my personal favorites. It is a favorite of Gundam fans at large. It's considered one of the better series overall. It is also a very tragic series with a lot of dark thematic elements to it. And I feel that despite not having Tomino's direct involvement in any way, it is one of the series that best captures the initial themes that he was going for in the creation of the series as a whole. Which is why we are going to talk about Mobile Suit Gundam 0080 War in the Pocket.
Woo!
And that's a curious thing that the name of this is Mobile Suit Gundam 0080.
Yeah, I'll definitely ask about that.
It takes place in the Universal Century Timeline. And it takes place technically during the events of 0079, right at the tail end of that 1 year war. So why go to the trouble of calling it 0080? Why not just keep the 0079 naming convention? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about
it.
War in the Pocket. This is a series.
Hey, it's that thing people do.
What's the thing people do?
People put their gunpla in the case and then attach it to a backpack.
Oh yeah, of course, because it's a toy, Marshall. The reason they do that is because it's a toy or it's a figure or a model. It's something that children play with. So they'll clip it to their backpack or take it with them, or even put it in their pocket, if I may be so bold.
All those children that I know that do that. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely just children that do that.
You are truly on a different tangent than I am on. But the idea is that like children see these things that we know to be, objects of war and military weapons, and they treat them like toys.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a big part of the mentality that, informs a lot of this series. War in the Pocket, which was released originally in March of 1989 over in Japan. It came over to the US. That would have been around, I think, 2001. It was an exclusive air. It was exclusively aired on Toonami. So this is another series that, kids growing up watching Toonami at that exact point in time this was one of the early Gundam anime that they received and, were exposed to at that time. And it obviously left a pretty significant mark on people in terms of how they thought about Gundam. It's not a huge, 30 to 40 episode epic with a ton of characters and all these different factions and alignments and relationships and a ton of crazy, super cool battles and, all kinds of like big fights in space. And it's very, very small in its scale and in the conflicts that it is looking at. Like I mentioned before, it's taking place right at the end of that 1-year war, and almost the entirety of the series occurs on like a specific colony instead of like jumping back and forth between like all these different places. Like it's mostly contained on this colony with a small group of characters. Before we dive in deeper, Marshall, I have a couple questions that I want to ask of you. Some of them are related to Gundam and some of them are not.
Sure.
Had you heard of War in the Pocket before we set out to watch it for this series?
I think I saw like a name, and I know now that I've seen clips of it.
Okay, interesting.
Obviously, it's a very specific one at the very end. But like, that's the thing, right? Like, I didn't have the attachment to the name, and like, I've heard colloquially, like, looking at Gundam stuff, people say the phrase "War in the Pocket," and then I had seen that clip, but they were separate. And what's actually interesting was one of the things I thought when I first saw Al was I thought it was the other like a different series, but also in UC and all that. That has like a little kid that has like a kid character in it, like where like the Xeon guy's like, "Children on the battlefield, I can't take it." And he like pulls the grenade on him, like on it by himself, and the kid has to like run away. Which is like, bro. So wait, you were upset that there's a kid on the battlefield, and then you pulled the pin under a grenade 6 feet from him? What do you mean? But I thought this was that, which it's not.
Okay.
But still, like, so that was all interesting. So like, I had the references, but not necessarily I had attached them. So it didn't necessarily spoil it for me, but it was when I saw the clip about to happen, I'm like, "Oh, yo, it's the clip. How did this go? How did this clip go again?" Oh. Oh. So it was enough too where I didn't fully remember it either.
Gotcha. I personally, this was one of those where I actually caught it on Adult Swim. I can't remember if it was that initial viewing in 2001. I feel like I would have been too young at that point. Just because I was around like 8 or 9 years old at that time. But I definitely saw it on Adult Swim at some point, maybe in like my early teens. And immediately was like, being of that age, like not liking Al at all.
Yeah.
Because of course, and we'll definitely get into that of like what it means to have a character like Al be the main character that you're following, and what, how that ends up for your overall enjoyment of a series like this. Because in terms of like protagonists in the long line of Gundam, I think Al as a protagonist is still pretty talked down on and seen as just kind of like a really annoying kid.
Yeah.
If you're not getting into the importance of why he's there and why it should be him that we're seeing the series perspective from. Because in most of our previous Gundams that we've been engaged with, most of the protagonists are either like in their teens or they're like in their early 20s, and either adults or closer to adulthood. And to have a Gundam that takes place from the perspective of a much younger child, it's definitely a different feel, and I think it contributes to some like frustration of having to almost kind of exert a level of patience with the main character of a series because they act like a child. They act childishly, they're immature, and they have a very basic understanding of how their world works, and it's obviously really ties into a lot of the hard lessons that he has to learn over the course of the series.
I mean, honestly, a lot of that I think goes similar to when I talked about how Quest is really annoying in Char's counterattack, but that is kind of the point, and that really actually makes it kind of properly written, because somebody who is Quest's whole character, like her upbringing, like how many people in that upbringing often act, like her character basis is a spoiled teenage brat. So when she acts and sounds like a spoiled teenage brat and that frustrates you, that's because her character is what her character is meant to be, right? And so there's truth to that with Al. He is a kid. He's meant to be a naive kid who doesn't understand real world implications. And thus, when you get mad that he's a kid and doesn't understand real world implications, that is good because he's a kid. This is a story about a child,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Another question I want to ask you is, when you were a child, were you a child that played with a lot of like Army Men figures, GI Joes, things of that nature? Like, did you have a lot of toys as a kid that were soldiers or like fighters or people with weapons and accessories like that? Or did you have kind of a different sort of collection of toys that you played with when you were growing up?
For me, it was mostly I had those two Gundam toys, and then I had a lot of Power Rangers toys were my big ones.
Okay.
Honestly, I didn't do a lot. Honestly, a lot of my action figure toys were either Star Wars, Power Rangers, and WWE. I had that Stone Cold action figure.
Yep. I was not the wrestling. I was not the wrestling toy kid myself, but I knew the specific people, including one of them was one of my best friends, who always brought just like the giant assortment of wrestling figures to the playground.
What?
And they would always be off in their own corner, playing with like Rey Mysterio and Undertaker and Stone Cold. And
yeah, I remember having a big Rock action figure. Like it was like a foot. This was like one of those big ones.
Could you smell what it was cooking?
Probably smelled like a lot of plastic.
Yeah,
probably
as a matter of fact, probably
plastics going into me. But no, otherwise. So no, I didn't really. I never got into the Army Men thing. I honestly, I think it's because I was spoiled by the way how good a lot of Power Rangers toys were, and video games. Right. The appeal of just the simple green Army Man never seemed interesting, and in fact, most war things didn't end up becoming more interesting until I started playing Call of Duty, which is around like 10.
Okay.
And then I got really into World War II, and that was the whole, I hit that arc of young of young lad.
And that would have been like the early Call of Duty games that were like, largely World War
First
II
one
focused.
was Finest Hour. Yeah, first one I played was Finest Hour, which is on the PS2.
Yep.
Then Big Red 1.
Yes.
Because I didn't have an Xbox 360, actually, I didn't play like actual Call of Duty 2 until way later.
For me, it was video games wise. I was really big into Medal of Honor Rising Sun, which is also specific to World War II. And has you play through like the entire Pearl Harbor conflict and several scenarios. And I spent a lot of time with that. But when I was like young, I was the kid. I definitely had like a whole tub of like Green Army men. I had GI Joes. I had a lot of GI Joe figures. And I watched a lot of like super old military related shows, a lot of them comedies, stuff like Hogan's Heroes, MASH, things like that. I would like see on TV as well. I won't go super in depth with it, but obviously you and I also were growing up during the major Afghanistan-Iran conflict in the early 2000s. I bring this up because it's interesting to approach this having just recently talked about Gundam Seed. Which I presented it as kind of like a shock humor, but was influenced by sort of the aftermath of the September 11th attacks. And the creator of that series kind of looking at the world as a whole and how it was becoming divided and being, really concerned about that. And, the following years, a lot of us, we kind of grew up with this like international conflict and war, just constant updates of it being shown on TV with the nightly news. And I also grew up in a city that had a lot of crime, which resulted in like a lot of, daily news reports about like homicides and arsons and robberies. So a lot of that just kind of became really commonplace and like weirdly standardized within my life and with me growing up. And that is a huge element of what makes War in the Pocket so tragic, is that it is the telling of a child who at this point very much treats war as this like exciting thing that is happening around them at all times, but that they have never been directly involved in. And it is like everything about the people who engage in military conflict is like cool and exciting and interesting. And there's no thought in terms of like what it actually means for people to die in combat. Why people fight for the reasons that they would fight, why military conflicts are started in the first place. It's just this really, immature thinking of like, wow, to see somebody with like a gun or piloting a big robot is just really cool to see. And goes all the way back to our very first episode with the meme of like, robots are cool, but missing the point of like war is bad, having that go over your head. Like this is the series, out of all of them, I feel like this is the most direct series in terms of addressing that actual issue of like, this is what Gundam is about. A lot of things, it's multifaceted. It has layers like an onion, but this is very much a central theme of what Gundam is supposed to be about. And in terms of its execution, I think it does a fantastic job with that. And rewatching it for this series, I was thrilled with how well it held up. I think it's still a great series. The characters are great. The plot beats are interesting. It's just as tragic as it was before. And I'm glad that it exists. I wish that there were more ways to watch it. At the time that we recorded this, somebody was kind enough to have it. They've got it currently on YouTube, but you never know when a day could come when that gets taken down by just like a copyright strike. Yeah, there's always a chance at some point that Sunrise or Bandai would be like, you know what, get that out of here, and put it behind a paywall or just like erase it from existence. So I'm glad that it exists right now, and that I was able to rewatch it, and you were able to watch it, and we could actually sit down and talk about it fully. So now that you have watched Gundam 0080 War in the Pocket, just quick general thoughts. How did you like the series overall?
Overall, I mean, I think the series was very interesting. I think it definitely wasn't. I watched it and I was very like, this is like pretty good, and I like the theming. I think one of the things that definitely did get to me about it was not even just necessarily like, it wasn't, I think the thing that got to me wasn't even just specifically that Al kind of was like annoying, but it was because that wasn't necessarily that. It was more that everyone around Al doesn't treat Al the way they should. And I don't mean that in the sense of like, they're not fair to him. I mean, like, these are either parents or adults in secret military jobs doing things they absolutely should never do. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Like you're saying they should be more.
It should have probably.
They should be treating him more like a child.
They should have treated him exactly like the child he was.
Yeah.
Instead of farting around with him. Like, I'll get to some parts of it because I think we can kind of somewhat go through parts of each episode. But like, it was just like, so that was my one thing where I was like, I feel like this has a great message, and I love the idea of the series being about, essentially children idealizing war when they don't truly experiencing it. And then once they do, they begin to truly understand the issue of the conflict, which is why one of the things I think that's actually becomes very powerful is, is the credit sequence. Everything everything in the credits, all the credit sequences are black and white until the last episode. And a lot of that, but like the images don't change. But the thing is, like, you kind of see it, and there's a lot of interesting things about them. Like, you're seeing a lot of children witnessing war in some way, but a number of them having different reactions, like they're hanging around Izaku. Some kid is watching, ships explode. Some kid is pretending to be a soldier at attention next to another. There's a girl who's literally staring at a dead soldier.
Mm-hmm.
But then, and it ends with the Happy New Year, which, it just seems like whatever. And then when you watch to the very end, that a Happy New Year, especially colorized, all of a sudden really feels clear, And that's, I think, the thing that the series gets very good, like very well, right? It does a great job at getting you to get that message at the end. And it does create very good characters. And that is inherently like the points in its favor. Like, so it's just like my one knockback when I was just watching it the whole time was just kind of like, man, do this gotta be this way? Like, what are we doing, guys? What are we doing? What are we doing, guys? Oh, especially like, Al's neighbor. What's her name?
You talking about Christine?
Yes.
Christina, aka Chris.
Man, her just like completely whiffing on a total red flag as a government agent. Just I'm technically soldier, but like she's supposed to be a smart one, right? Specifically. You couldn't.
It's a lot
Nothing
of like,
about this was all fishy.
I'm hesitant to say that she was stupid. I think it's definitely a case of like, it's a weird thing where she is a test pilot. She is very good at her job. She's very smart in that regard. She's intelligent. But there is this interesting divide that these characters have between their, I'm using, you can't see it, but I'm doing finger quotes here, their government job and their home life, where I don't think it really is setting in for them how close to home they're bringing their work. And it doesn't occur to them to be a lot more careful and a lot more observant about putting the pieces together of what's actually happening like on the colony and in relation to Al and Bernie. And I feel like Christina really falls into that pocket, pun not intended, where she doesn't, I mean, from beginning to end, really, like she doesn't really, you know, question a lot of things that she should probably question. I mean, the moment Al is claiming that Bernie is his brother, like that was in the rewatch. I remember being like, this is such a this is such a loose story, and it feels like something that like Christina and her family would be like, I don't know about that, but they kind of,
like I've known you guys for a while.
Yeah, like they're not new neighbors. Like they've known each other for a while, and so it's weird how quickly they just kind of fall in line with that. And I think it is this like interesting divide that's happening for them, where they're kind of putting these parts of their life into boxes and being like, we've done what we need to do to fully separate our government work and our military work from what is happening at home and on the home front. And it takes a lot of the events of this series to really like open the eyes of most of everyone involved in terms of like how close this conflict is to actually spilling over into their home life and their families.
Yes, I do want to quickly beg the question though. Shoot. I do want to beg the question though. The patch that he is constantly wearing. Is the patch he and that that he was given and all that. That is that like specifically a Xeon patch, or is that meant to
the
look
one
like
Al
a
is
Federation
wearing,
patch?
or the
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that was a Federation one, the one that has like the F on it.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was meant to be an F or not, because it's not like the other like star logo that they have. Like it's not like the star thing. So I wasn't sure, but it's not. It's also not
the
arrow symbol.
I apologize if I
blah,
blah, blah, blah, blah. I apologize if I'm misremembering, but it was, I want to say like the second episode. It was more so a badge that he got from no, well, it would have to be Xeon, because I think it was Bernie's badge specifically that he hands him.
Well, I don't know. He originally had, I think, Bernie's badge, and then he took it and gave it to him. I sent you a picture of the one that he ends with, right?
Yeah.
That's the one I'm unsure. I
think that is the one.
That looks like the one that Bernie has.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be weird to have that close a design with each other.
For him to be like,
yeah, that's his special forces badge.
Yeah, he continues to wear it, and then nobody would be tipped off to, hey, why are you wearing a Xeon badge?
Right. I mean, look, just to be like, why, you know? And again, that's more to my point of why, like, she should have had a red flag. Just like, I get maybe you want to turn your government job brain off when you get home, but look, you see your neighbor kid sitting with a Xeon patch, and you're like, hey, bud, like, you know, like, why you into Xeon? Like, just curious, you know? Because even then, right, her thought could still be, his parents could be a spy, right? His dad, who's not there, who's unaccounted for, right? He could be a spy. Fucking who knows, right? That's the key to me. It's like, there are red flags that the adults should get and they ignore. And it does, unfortunately, like, detract some of parts of the series to me. It's funny. You. It's not Al that explicitly detracts the series. It's the people around him. Because again, to me, Al is just being a kid. It's the concept that, like, he's being allowed to go in these places that he goes. And in fact, he actually shows himself to be kind of tricky in many scenarios in this series. You know? Actually, Al deserves a lot more credit, I think, than a lot of people give him online, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you think about a number of the like stunts he pulls and like the things he does, you know, and while maybe they don't all work, it is a inherently good, or it's like, it's a smart and interesting job. In many of those instances.
Mm-hmm.
But do you kind of want to just like go through the episodes here?
Yeah, I mean, we can kind of run it that way. If we want to go through each episode, we can do it like that.
We could. Obviously we're just they're pretty brief to get through. I just figured there's only the 6. It's probably a good way to format it.
Mm-hmm.
Could just help keep us in check, you know, kind of like, what was our problem at each point? And I will say though, I do actually love that it starts with the whole like Arctic scene.
Yes.
With them, it's because first it is great. I will note though, it did make me a little bit confused as to where in the timeline this was.
Mm-hmm.
Like timeline wise, because I will note, like, when you mentioned like it's near the end of the war, I was like, I wasn't sure if it kind of framed at the start like it was at the end of the war, but I took it like at literally the war ended, and so now they're trying to do this. But then when I saw they're building this Gundam on side 6, I was like, oh, is this actually like how the Gundam went from, you know, like how they got the Gundam here, then it went to side, then did it go to side 6 and then it goes to side 7? So I was like, oh, is this actually earlier? But I was like, no, this is 0080. That's weird. So I was like trying to piece it together.
Yeah, I get you.
Because they don't talk about, you know, they don't talk about the RX-78 much.
No, not a ton.
And like even on the colony, right? Like despite that, one way or the other, like the Gundam existence shouldn't be necessarily a secret, right? It is there. It was at side 6, you know, months ago. But knowing it for sure, though, kind of going into it, like if it is that end of the, you kind of near the end of the 1-year war, it does at least help draw you to like, okay, so this was like if you're thinking of this like as a pre-watching Zeta, then you're like, oh shit, okay, so now they're finally getting a next proper Gundam, kind of thing.
Yeah. This is technically the 4th RX-78 mobile suit to be developed.
Okay.
And it was like it was specifically designed for Amuro Ray. Like Amuro had already been using the RX-78. And then the Alex, when the Alex is being developed, it is because the Federation is already aware of what Amuro Ray is doing with the existing Gundam. And so this is being developed for him specifically. And then doesn't end up getting used by Amuro.
It does not. You said it does not?
It does not.
No. Oh. Man, so it just like is like, so they went through all this and that Gundam doesn't even get used.
I'm not gonna say it doesn't get used, but I don't know. It's complicated because
it doesn't get used by its intended recipient.
It never gets used by Amuro Ray, because what kind of happens is that it kind of gets passed around. I'll say that it gets redesigned at a few points, and it gets passed around to a few different people under different names. But like the Alex that we know basically begins and ends its run within this series.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So otherwise, I mean, the beginning of the episode inherently ends up being, I think it's interesting. I think one of the things that ended up actually being the most, I think, kind of cool detail to throw in here was at the very beginning of this episode. So there's the 3 kids are sitting around their desks for lunch, and they're talking about how Al's knows that, hey, the Federation has a mobile suit. And as we were establishing here, for whatever reason, people inside 6 do not all know that there is a mobile suit for the Federation, despite it was literally within the colony months ago.
It's still got this kind of like interesting perspective where it's exactly a mysticism to it.
Where, obviously they all know that Zeon's had mobile suits over the whole year.
So even though Che's like showing them like the Federation badge and being like, my brother's a mobile suit pilot, everybody's treating it the same way that they would when you would come into school as a kid and be like, my dad knows Nintendo or something of that nature.
Which is funny because, I mean, it's funny because when you, the whole like the Federation has no mobile suits thing does immediately get disproven regardless of the concept of the Gundam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the actual just standard, shooter mobile suits that the Federation, ends up being able to make by this point in the war are defending the colony when the first Zaku hit shortly after this scene. So it's funny that like then the girl comes in and is like, there's no such thing as Federation mobile suits. And it's just like, so in 5 minutes, you're going to be proven very wrong, as there's going to be 2 walking around shooting at these Zaku that land.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it comes down to that these are children. And they kind of have limited access in terms of like what the information they have, but also in their overall worldview of like what their parents tell them, what their teachers tell them. Like they're at a point in their lives where they have a lot of different like sources that they would be getting information from. And not everyone is going to be telling them the same things.
Yes.
Depending on what their families do for a living, they're going to have different amounts of information that's given to them. And it creates, like, we as adults and we as people watching the series, we obviously know better. We have the context and a lot of the hindsight to know what's real and what isn't. But they're in this, very weird specific stance where they effectively know whatever their parents have told them or whatever they have seen on the news. And it's very easy at that age to still kind of turn an ignorant eye to all of that and act like it's not real. Because thinking from the perspective of a child, it's like, what happens when you have to admit to yourself that it's real? What does that mean for you as a kid? Does it mean more beyond just I was right or I was wrong compared to like the other kids in class? Like, is there other aspects of that you're kind of having to or not wanting to admit to yourself in terms of like whether or not these enormous mobile suits are real and exist? Because like if you admit that that's real and that's what's going on, what does that say about Shay's brother and their position and what they're doing?
Right. And what?
Like
and
it's a lot to kind of deal with as a child and to have to consider. And the easiest thing is to just be like, no, that's real.
Yeah.
You're just making that up because you want to sound cool.
Yeah. Well, and especially, it's kind of this initial insinuation that, her household may have some type of Xeon bias, right? Like, it's technically on side 6, so it's supposed to be a neutral site, but like maybe they, one of her parents, came from that colony or has family on those colonies that, that sided with Xeon,
right.
There, who knows? And that's a big question. So like, but that's obviously like the big implication here. Then
they get in a fight
that she straight up kicks
they
in the nuts.
They straight up go to town. They duke it out. And so Al and Shay end up getting into trouble.
Yes, because this is classic 80s mindset, and so it's like, so just the girl gets in trouble, or just the girl gets the boys in trouble. Well,
yeah, girls don't fight. What are you talking about? That's not a thing that girls do. Which brings us to,
so that means that she's clearly been wronged.
But
anyway.
That brings us to Al heading home and running into his neighbor, Christina McKenzie.
Well, first he does the tricky thing, right? He's so hell-bent on wanting to know that there is a Federation mobile suit. He makes a detour on the way home. And he that's when he goes and he sees them unloading the shuttle and gets
he's got a camera with him.
Gets that little peek, a little tiny peek.
Tiny little peek of the Gundam.
Yep. Not like the action, not fully, it's still in the box, but like
I think it's mainly just the head.
I can't remember what the head was there, or let me hold on. I was trying to skip a tiny amount, but when he zooms in, it just shows the box and a dude. He zooms into the dude. Hold on. It might be after he gets told to. Oh, yeah. No, they show it. He doesn't see it.
Right. He's already left.
Weird. Yep. Yeah. Also, can we note the mid-sequence like break thing, like sound is pretty peak.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's just like the way it hits on the beat. Such a classic, like especially like 80s tone. But then he also lies to his dad about his grades. We have no context though why his parents are. We have no context though why his parents are split up.
Right. Nope, they just are.
They just are. We don't even know at this point that they're divorced. Which when that becomes relevant in the last episode, it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's where we were for some reason. But yes, then he runs into childhood friend, though. I mean, like, I was gonna say, it's long enough that he doesn't recognize her as kind of like an adult.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. She's been away on Earth for quite a while, and so he's like not entirely sure at first.
So he was really young, but probably not too young that it was hard to recognize her, right?
Yeah.
Or like impossible. Like if he was like 4, and then she's like, I mean, what? He's probably like 10.
Because he's 11 now.
Oh, he's 11. Okay.
During 080, he is 11 years old.
And is she supposed to be like 18?
She is.
Because I just have a feeling like she probably.
I'm pretty sure she's 21 at this point.
Okay, I was gonna say she probably isn't in child soldier territory at this point. She's probably a proper Federation soldier.
She's.
So I was like, she has to be at least 18, an adult, right? Yeah.
She's an adult at this point.
Yeah. So like, I mean, what if he was like 6, and there's like maybe a 10-year difference, that she would have been like 16. Which I wouldn't think she would look terribly different, but because honestly, I wouldn't say that I look super different between 16 and 21 myself. Only like very minute changes to my person were at the time, mainly growing a beard. Actually, when I was 21, I don't think I had the beard yet. I shaved my goatee, though. That's what I did do. So it's actually the opposite. I had less facial hair at 21.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and at least, yeah. So we're kind of seeing that, like, clearly I feel like what it's doing, an interesting part to establish, is that everyone around him is kind of Federation aligned almost, if you will. Though I do find it very amusing how I forget her name, but the girl, Dorothy. I'm seeing it here. Okay, so Dorothy.
Yes.
Yeah, she comes up with the fucking rain of toy badges.
Yes, that's later on in this episode. She kind of shows up and is like, here's all the toy badges. That's the badge that Shay has comes from this. He's full of it.
I didn't feel like it was worth getting into the whole him not being bad at his grades and his mom reprimanding him for it, because at this point that is the proper
I agree.
reaction.
I don't think
it's at this point that's all proper. That's what it just establishes. He's a kid and he likes to goof off. Like,
yep, that's kind of all you're getting from that. There's another interaction with his mother that's different, that I think is way more important to the story. I think a lot of the stuff that's happening with Dorothy there isn't really all that.
No, this is.
It's really just establishing that he's a kid.
Yeah, and then Dorothy, it's like a funny note, like with this the whole badge thing, because that's when like immediately something explodes and they look over.
Mobile Suit and Xeon show up right away. The Zaku, yep.
Yeah, she's like, told you she made it. It's just funny. Like, this is just purely like just a kind of light comedic note, because like obviously this series gets inherently dark. This is just like a funny thing of just like her being like, see, told you, there's no such thing as a Federation mobile suit. Boom, they all look to the left. Big Federation mobile suit.
Giant mobile suit.
It's just right there. It's just
it's like if they were arguing about it's like if they were arguing about Godzilla not being real, and then suddenly just a giant Godzilla foot stomps down next to them.
Though for legal reasons, it's not Godzilla. But we should run like it is Godzilla.
But it's not.
But it's not. What a fucking classic.
But yeah. He meets with Christina.
Yeah, I mean,
she claims that she has just gotten back from Earth on a government job that she was working on. that they, she had gotten back here at like pretty short notice, but obviously it doesn't get into specifics of what her job entails.
Sure, but
fair. But we at least see that she has a Federation uniform when she's like getting clothes for Al to wear, because it was raining.
Yeah.
Al does something. He goes off into his room later on, and he's playing like a video game. It's like it reminds me of Duck Hunt, where he has like a physical gun controller that he uses, but he can shoot at the screen.
Yeah, it's like meant to emulate that clearly.
Yeah, and there's a really interesting thing that happens here, where his mom obviously does the traditional thing of like coming in and be like, turn off the video games, do your homework, focus on that. Don't use that tone with me. Like he says, like, yes, mom. She's like, don't use that tone with me. And then he goes back to playing the game again, and he just keeps repeating over and over and over again, just being like, yes, mom, yes, mom, yes, mom. And as he's doing it, he keeps shooting at targets in his game, but the targets change, and they start out, they're like monsters and like enemies and stuff. And then it changes to being like hospitals and schools and things of that nature. And he's shooting at them and getting points for them. And he's just like keeps doing it over and over again. And
subtracted points.
Yes, but he keeps shooting at them anyway.
Yes.
And he just keeps repeating in that same monotone. Yes. Like he's this interesting level of like checked out, where it asks the question of how much is that him just like not paying attention to what he's doing, and how much of that is him just being like, I don't care what the target is. Like, I'm just doing this to do it. I'm pulling the trigger just to pull the trigger because it's just a game to me. Like, it doesn't mean anything substantial.
Yes.
There's no real level of consequence tied to it.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you have what you talked about there, where he goes back to school. Dorothy shows them the rank badges. Immediately, the Gundam and the Zaku show up.
Well, at least it's just
for the sake of dramatic irony.
It is at least just like one of those like standard like mobile suits, like not like very not Gundam-y.
Yeah, it's like a regular like 79 Gundam.
I like how they do have to advertise the parking space though with like the like girl, the bunny girl.
Yeah. Here's where that kind of ties in. I don't know if this is a direct reference, but one of the main writers for this series for War in the Pocket also worked on Daikon 3 and 4, the short films that were made for the Daikon conventions, if you recall, that have the woman in the bunny costume. I think that's a little nod to it, but I haven't confirmed that anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, who's to say? What I find interesting first, is like obviously through the series that we've kind of denoted, I find it interesting that the two Zaku that are taking part in this mission, right? First are two different models of Zaku.
Yes. You got a Zaku and you got a Rick Dom.
Yeah, and that is interesting just because I wonder if it somewhat implicates the status of Zeon at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
But secondly, it also kind of, when you get first of all, when you get that really close up like view of the Zaku, it's just really cool to like see the whole, like just like the workings of the mono eye and like the way the head is like meant to work.
Mm-hmm.
But also, yeah, it's just like y'all just shooting shit. Damn.
Yeah, they're just kind of going for it. It's funny, the Rick Dom, it's a Rick Dom 2 specifically that's being used in this instance.
Yeah.
And it's more so the Rick Dom 2s are more built for space combat than they are like combat within the planet. And I think that kind of gets reflected in the way that they fight and that they're used.
Yeah, especially the fact that that's the one that gets like destroyed and like looted.
Yeah. yeah, it kind of really leans into that idea of like it wasn't built for these kinds of like close quarters combat situations.
Yeah. But yeah, so obviously then one of them starts to crash before almost running into the school. Luckily does jump over the school.
Yes.
But
really cool shot.
Engines
also,
go out. Yeah.
The Zaku jumping overhead.
Yeah. And so then he comes face to face with a man on the Zaku.
The man
pointing a gun at him.
Yeah, pilot by the name of Bernard Wiseman.
That's right. So yeah, Bernie
voiced,
as we come to learn him as, yes,
by David Hayter,
or otherwise known as Sean Barker.
Sean Barker, if you will, if you're nasty.
Also, because it first shows up obviously in the second episode, can we talk about the fact that the intro to this fucking show is a minute and 40 seconds?
It is. Why is this
so long?
I had forgotten about the nature of the intro, and on rewatching, I was like, "Wow, I totally forgot that this existed." Like, yeah, it's interesting how much work they put into the intro and having it be so long.
Yeah. I do want to note though, when he's running to the Zaku, like how he's just kind of ignoring the devastation around him. Like, you know, there is a dude is staring at like the rubble of the buildings, you know, a woman's, or like this dude is washing down his car's engine that's been crushed, you know, like a girl is like hugging this guy, you know, he's just like, I don't care. I want to go see the big robot. But, yeah, so he meets Bernie. Bernie, obviously, because we very much quickly learn the character that he truly is, obviously does not shoot him nor truly intend to do so.
Yep. We, you know, it's established right away. This guy is a Zaku pilot. He is part of the Principality of Zeon. But yeah, he's not immediately like willing to shoot a child. He's more so just like, get lost, kid. You don't know what this is about. This doesn't involve you.
Yeah, he like tries to threaten him with it, but he's just see if he'll get lost, but like not at the point. So he then obviously tries to get the camera that Al has filmed him with. And while wrestling for it, Al sees his patch. And
yeah, that's like, where the badge comes in. And
he's like, yo,
like the camera for the badge.
Yeah, like I see that, like, because that's the whole basis that we've come to at this point is like, oh, like if you know a soldier, he doesn't really care who it's from, because Al, on his standpoint, doesn't really have any bias. He is truly like a neutral position, right? At
yes, despite like you were mentioning before, like he's sort of grown up where like most of the people around him seem to be more so pro-Federation. Like he doesn't really have this, like, his way of looking at the conflict isn't like, my family fights on the side of the Federation, I believe in the Federation. All he knows is that like a soldier is a soldier. And it's cool. Like the military paraphernalia that they have is cool no matter which side of the conflict it comes from.
But then, yeah, so like, oops. So obviously, yeah, he's like, yo, I want that. And he's like, sure, fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, so he just gets the data off of it so that, because he doesn't actually care about TV and the camera, you know, he just gets the data off it. Then a second actual Zaku shows up, picks him up, and they leave, you know?
Yep.
So, but this is like, at least Al takes this initial step to be like, oh, like, damn, that's pretty cool. And then immediately turns around and sees not only just a bunch of devastation, but like a woman getting carted off. And I tell you what, I was fully expecting that to be his mom.
Oh yeah, interesting.
I straight up was waiting for it
Yeah.
to like be his mom, and he would be like, and like there would be some realm where like they would start, maybe like this would be where it would either get real or something, you know, whatever, or like something would happen, and that it would just be like, oh shit, like because he was obviously, he just had the fight with, you know, because he just had the fight with his mom, so it just sat so perfectly into that idea of it becoming a thing, like, oh, the last thing I said to my mom was like I was mean to her, you know, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But no, instead he just gets pulled. He kind of gets pulled out of reality, if you will, by his friends, who just kind of pull the like, yo, they canceled school. Let's fucking go.
Think about an immediate parallel for this is the concept of a snow day.
Yeah.
How when you're a kid, a snow day is like the best thing ever. It means you don't have to go into school. You can just go outside and play in the snow all day, or stay inside and play video games, or what, you know, read a book, what have you. You're not thinking about what does a snow day mean for an adult. What does a day that like the roads are so covered in snow or ice, or the weather is so severe that they have to close down the schools because the buses aren't able to get there. What does that mean for different adults in different positions? You
Right.
just don't think about that. All you think about is that I don't have to go to school, and the snow doesn't hurt me if I just go out and play at it, as long as, you know, my parents are making me wear like a snow jacket and boots and everything. Like, I just get to have fun. That's all it is. It's fun. And there is that disconnect between viewing this situation as a child and viewing the situation as an adult.
Yeah. And I mean, but like I find the aspect of like the fully just like pulling out like parallel aspect to it is so interesting. But yeah, it's like they cancel the rest of classes, and they're like everybody's cheering, and it's just like, then they're like, I like to think of it like that meme where it's like they're cheering, and then there's like some dude on the side, you burned my house to the ground. My family is dead.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like you know, it's just the contrast that I just kind of continually find funny.
This series, despite being a 6-episode series, it really is like kind of taking, like going back to what you're saying about how like you expected that to be his mother. This series really, despite being 6 episodes, plays it slow and plays it safe with like how immediately he becomes involved in the conflict. Like they really give it time in terms of making it like, okay, now the issues are on my doorstep, you know?
Well, I think it's because they did the really smart thing and being like, this is about one singular conflict. This isn't about the war, a whole war. This is about one diluted, just one singular ordeal on this colony.
Yes.
And damn, dude, man, first we get to see Captain fucking Forehead. Man's got a fucking forehead like mine.
You mean you of course like mean
for real
Kazuhira oh, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about Metal Gear again. You mean Killing, Colonel Killing.
Yeah, him. So I mean he assigns Bernie to the special forces unit, who are gonna go, you know, who become our
the Cyclops team.
Yep. And you know, and we just kind of learn, obviously we're getting the good gauge that like he is actually very green as a soldier.
Yes. Very much so. He's a rookie. Yep.
And you know, this is the group we saw at the very beginning in the Arctic fight scene. They lost their man, so he's replacing him. obviously the commander of that squadron cares a lot because I mean he had a very harsh reaction to that soldier dying.
Yes, Steiner. Yep.
Though almost killing him in the process of dying.
Yeah.
Almost got hit direct impact with that fucking missile. But yeah, so like we learned that they clearly have like history as a group, but we're kind of left on red a little bit with that, you know, because we immediately go back to Al getting scolded by his principal for having bad grades.
He's got bad he's a kid. He's got bad grades to worry about. That's what matters.
Yeah.
He's gonna, oh man, what's he gonna tell his mom? What's he gonna do?
Yeah, his mom's gonna ground him.
That's so, dude, that's the end of the world.
Absolutely.
Getting grounded for having bad grades. Can't imagine anything worse than that.
Which then I find very interesting because he then goes to sneak out into the Zaku and spends the whole night in it.
Also, this is something I fear you planted something in my mind when you were bringing up Chris and like the whole idea of like the parents not treating Al more severely or like more like a kid and keeping more of an eye on him, because he sneaks out and Chris catches him, but she essentially kind of lets him go.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't do this to myself, because if I do this now, I'm going to do it for like every aspect of this series. But I am now thinking and being like, if I were in Chris's position, would I have been more suspicious? Would I have brushed it off as just like, this is a kid being a kid, you know, sneaking out of the house, just leave them be, kids will be kids? Or would I be a little more like, I should probably track him and make sure he doesn't get himself into serious trouble?
I think at this point, I would definitely say that I would be that I wouldn't be as suspicious. Because right now, yes, the Zaku did show up for a bit, right? And, you know, there's definitely question to that, but some people would definitely just kind of look at it solely as just like, okay, you know, there's some shit going on. Nothing. We're not worried about it. We just got here. You know, obviously they're kind of aware that we came here. You know, but I have no reason to think that there's a spy, especially in that family, right? Because he doesn't have the patch out. He just he's never interacted with a Xeon as far as he could ever know, or she could ever know. So at this point, I would say it's clean, right? I do like how when the special forces team does move, I want to note, because this is after he falls asleep, that they are being escorted by a red Zaku, but we do not get told if that is the red Zaku in any way.
Yeah,
you know?
There's kind of an implication there, but we don't get like direct confirmation.
But I like that. I kind of like that. It's just kind of like this hint, because he's the only one. There's only one. There's only one red Zaku in the whole.
It's like the nature of the Alex, where like the Alex was being developed to be used by Amuro Ray, but we don't get, we don't see Amuro Ray. Obviously, we don't see, a lot of the like they do the right thing, which is to keep all of that on the like deepest fringes of the outside. Like we know that that's happening in parallel, but they don't reference a lot of that material. It's just like we know it's happening, and that's all we really need to know.
Yeah, and they don't even name drop him, but yeah, like I do like, again, that he falls asleep in the Zaku. That Al does fall asleep in the Zaku, but doesn't just has no immediate concern. Like, oh shit, my mom's gonna know I'm not in the house.
Yeah.
But then instead fucking runs about after kind of getting semi worried about it and hitches a ride on the truck of the special forces team.
Yeah, because he sees that it's burning.
He sees burning. Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't know, the question I do find interesting, and I do maybe question is, you did just see Zeon like attacking your city. I do wonder like how you were still at least so disconnected that you're not like, that you're like this excited that the Zeon soldiers came back. Like more in that realm, but just like, I would be maybe more like, I could see if he was like, I want to see what these guys are about, or it's like, I want to see that guy again. He was cool. If it was something like that, but like, because he doesn't say that, he's just like, the Zeon soldiers are back. Whee! It's like, it's kind of weird because it's just like, why are you that excited?
I think it comes back to that kind of indifference, that neutrality that we talked about before, where he's not necessarily a like stalwart Federation supporter as a kid.
Sure, right.
He doesn't understand enough about what it is that the Federation and Zeon are fighting for to necessarily pick a side at that point. I also remember,
should note quick, boy's fast as fuck caught up to that truck that was going fast enough that it lifted his legs in the air.
Yeah, he ran. Kids can run.
Boy's a cheetah. Anyway, what were you going to say? What were you saying?
Sorry. I was just going to make a point about how I remember being super young, like 8 or 9 years old. And at that age, trying to understand the difference between our two-party system in the US.
Oh, yeah.
Like a lot of that, I feel like really doesn't sink in for you.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
Until you've lived long enough. I recall like magazine polls where it was like, if you like Dr. Pepper, you most likely will fall on the side of being a Republican based on surveys that we've conducted. And being like a literal child and like, well, I like Dr. Pepper. I guess that means that I'll likely vote Republican when I'm older, but I don't know, maybe.
No, right.
It just like not like having that be the association, because I don't understand like political stances, but I understand Dr. Pepper because it's been advertised to me and I've drank it as a kid and I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
For Al and his friends, I think it's the same thing. It's like their understanding of these conflicts is so shallow, and it is tied much more closely to what they see at the toy store instead of any like moral compass that they can possess at this point.
Right. And so like but like I do like that. Again, this goes to my credit that actually Al's a pretty smart kid. He is like, I know how I can go there and I can get in the door. He goes to the police and he acts like, oh my God, there are these people. They clearly did some bad things. Look how much, like, look how they hurt me. And then, they go into it, like investigate. And then he starts crying and pretending that like saying like, I just wanted to see my brother, Bernie,
This is interesting. How did you feel about this moment? Because for me, this was like a big, like, oh, yeah.
At first, I was confused. I was confused, right? I'm like, why do you care? I'm like, I was just so like, I was just like, why are you so invested? Like, it was just the amount, right? It was just the amount of investment. But when I thought about it later, I was like, okay, well, he clearly was just very positively, he very clearly had a very positive taking out from his first interaction with Bernie, right?
Yes.
Like he just saw the Zaku, thought it was cool as shit, and then had a really nice interaction with Bernie, Bernie made himself sound super fucking cool, and then and gave him the patch. And so he was like, yeah, dude, fucking sick guys, So like, he just clearly had a and then when I realized that, I was like, he's actually a very smart kid, because he thought that out way more than most kids would. A kid would go to that and be like, oh shit, what have I done? Like, but he was like, no, now that I'm in. Now I'm going to use, and which he does more than once in this series, I'm going to use my childhood as bait, essentially.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm just going to say he's my brother. I was so happy to see him. I'm sorry, I made it up. I just really wanted to see him, blah, blah, blah. And, the cops are like, all right, fucking, just don't do this again, kid. Have a good day, gentlemen. Blah, they leave. They don't.
I definitely,
because they realize they're just kind of being duped, which somewhat comes to bite them in the ass later. But we'll get to that.
I think my reading, interestingly enough, wasn't as I wasn't seeing Al in a more like intentional, as like an intentional. How do I put this? For me, I read this whole situation as him going to the police out of a sense of wanting to have that more direct involvement with what's going on. So not thinking about the consequences, not thinking about the circumstances, he involves the police because that allows him to still be involved in what's happening. And as soon as the police are there and they're asking questions, and one of the members of the Cyclops team like pulls out a weapon, getting ready to like fire on them, I definitely think this is one of the first key moments where for Al, what started as like play is becoming real, and he starts to put together the realness of the situation, and also does the math in his head that like if this breaks out into an actual fight, he potentially loses Bernie, who he's, like you say, he's already developed this really positive attachment to, despite only knowing him for a very brief amount of time. Which is why he then immediately goes to like calling him a big brother and like sort of diffusing the situation by being like, I lied about this. I think for him, it's a moment where it becomes real. And for him to hang on to what he wants the situation to be, he has to lie, and he has to like retreat back to like being a kid and acting like a kid so that he doesn't lose. Like it's maybe it's a cynical view of it, but I view it less as like Al trying to diffuse the situation to save lives, and more like, if I don't handle this situation right, my toys get taken away from me.
Well, and no, and I didn't look at it as like he did it to save lives. I look at it more that he's like, I want to get in. I want to get into like, I'm getting into the club,
Yeah, I want to be in the room where it happens. Absolutely.
Yeah. So he's just like, the way I can get to them is by getting the police and get in the door. And then, he kind of reacts to everything and he's like, okay, yeah, sure. Well, and sure. He's like, okay, now it's getting a little too real. I won't be able just to stay here. I need to act on something. And so he pulls his bit,
Mm-hmm. What this results in is that, Al uses this to kind of worm his way into being a part of the Cyclops team.
Yeah.
Or as much as a child can be.
Sure.
And Al provides them like information about the location of where he was when he was taking the photos and there's the video rather.
Yeah.
And it's just another case again of just like, as far as he's aware, he's helping out these cool soldier guys that he just met. He's not at all thinking about, I'm technically betraying the colony that I live on.
Yeah.
Like that is not in consideration for him at all.
No, he has no concept of it. But I do find it very interesting how kind of nicely and soft spoken the commander is about it.
Yeah, Steiner, I think, really sees. Steiner reminds me of adults that I knew when I was growing up, who recognize the curiosity, like the natural curiosity that children often have, and that like there's a way you can shut children out entirely, but in a lot of cases that results in them being more resilient and more desperate to try to like be in the know and get involved with what the adults are doing. And there's a benefit to letting them in a little bit to like satiate their curiosity to then send them away.
Yeah. And I like that they all kind of just, except for Bernie at first, they kind of all roll with it,
Yeah, because in a sense, it also allows them to get information that they need to carry out their mission.
Well, and also that they clearly kind of know, they know what his plot is,
Yeah.
But then I do love, so then the Bernie drives him home is kind of, all like, and when he's trying to like to spy that night, gets knocked the fuck out.
Bro gets beamed. Gets the Sammy Sosa treatment from Christine.
She just fucking clocks him. And then when he's like, he tries to come with the lie, he sticks to the lie that it's his brother, and again, clearly like they must not know each other crazy long, but she tries to be like, don't call the police.
Yeah, for them to just like kind of pretty immediately accept, and they feed the lie a little bit more. Like they make it about like, well, we share a dad, but like mom doesn't know, that's why he's sneaking. Like it's one of those things where like I feel like if
I think it's one of those things.
Parents talked enough with Al's mom,
right?
The holes would be pretty.
Oh yeah,
the holes would be pretty apparent eventually.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, and I mean that's why they like try to make it like, please don't talk to them about it. Don't talk to her about it. But yeah, like I always wonder about like, so when we reach the, when in the after parts of this series, when they see his dad, at some point they're going to see him alone and ask him about it. I mean, at that point, obviously it's just going to end up leading to Al being like, yeah, I lied. But, like, at this point there'll be a whole thing about it otherwise, but, it's just funny. But I feel like one thing about this is an excuse probably works much easier in a Japanese audience, especially in the 80s still, versus American, especially now.
Yeah, part of this is it is a cultural translation, not a literal translation, that doesn't necessarily come across the same way for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because even in the 80s, like the idea that like that, his dad had a really bad divorce, but he had a kid, he wouldn't like, almost like he would never hide that. But then in Japan, there probably was a real thing where it's like, hey, I had this family, but I don't, whatever things happened. So I don't, because the guy, the kid is an adult, I don't involve them in my new family, I'm sure there was plenty of reality to that concept. I mean, it just doesn't seem like a surprise given the many other various cultural things that Japan has gone through in its time.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously seeing it now, you're kind of like, what? But if you think about it from like the Japanese perspective, it maybe at least is a little bit more passable to be like, okay, well, maybe, But, so Al starts hanging out with the crew. We start getting that dramatic irony, though, because they're working on. I mean, is this a goof? Like, is this what the basics this is kind of meant to kind of be? Or
you're talking about the Xeon mobile suit that they're building?
Yeah.
It's not a goof per se. It's pretty close. It's a comfort.
Oh, okay. That's what it is.
Yeah, I feel like it's meant to be. It's Nozaku, boy, Nozaku. I definitely feel like it's meant to be like reminiscent of the goof.
Sure. And I mean
Uh,
that comes into the case in like the 89th team or whatever it's called, but
mhm.
um I do find it then interesting though that we do learn, then we get our dramatic irony. That's when we learn, we've got like, oh, like I actually Chris is a test pilot,
Yes,
she
we
is,
the data entry job that she was claiming to have,
yeah.
as we all do when we try to explain to our parents how our job works, is in fact no, she is a test pilot for the Federation.
Yeah.
So you have this interesting parallel of the Cyclops team is working on the comp for a while. The Federation team is, running tests for the Alex.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, and then obviously in turn, Al and Bernie are kind of getting to know each other a little more. Al again kind of showing he's got pretty good insight, kind of discovers that the base is kind of what they think it is, and
Yeah,
because he recognizes the dude from the hangar. So he's like, "Oh, this is it, 100%."
Yeah, this is the thing. Yep. And they sneak in and they're able to get suits, one for Bernie, one for Al, and sneak in and kind of get a better view of the Gundam Alex as it's there.
Though, oh yeah, no, they go to the outside of the colony, right? That's the part I forget. That's what they were in the suits for.
Yes.
He dangles him off the fucking ledge.
Mm-hmm. Like you do.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, which I will know, which is why I do kind of find it interesting how going into episode 4, first obviously I want to know the the coding that they use for at the bar is very funny.
Yeah.
It's like, I'd like to order a flat beer. That's a hell of an order. Well, sir, as long as it's better than horse piss. What a code phrase to use.
How many like drafts do you think they had of like what should our code phrase be? And then they arrived on that.
Well, they're definitely like, okay, so no one's gonna order a flat beer, right?
No one. Only lunatics and new types would order a flat beer.
New types. And then I feel like if I had to guess, that was definitely a joke between the bartender and Steiner to be like, it's better than horse piss.
Yeah.
Because there was probably, my guess is, there was probably a point where they were drinking buddies and they had a flat beer, but they just drank it anyway because it was quote unquote better than horse piss. That would be my guess, right? Like that's what it kind of feels like that would stem from. I do love the like vaguely Latino accent though coming out of his parents. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like Garcia is like it's just funny. And then what's the other guy's name? The vaguely Russian guy. Who of course is drinking all the time, like really hitting on the stereotypes here.
On the Cyclops team, or
yeah, I forgot his name.
Yeah, not Garcia, but
the fourth guy that isn't Garcia, Steiner, or Bernie.
You're talking about Mikhail, right?
Yeah, Mikhail, yeah.
Yeah, he's the one who's because he's the one that's going to be piloting. They call him Misha. Yeah. He's the one that's going to be piloting the comper.
I will note though that at least they don't go too stereotypical with Garcia.
Yeah, they don't go crazy with it. Yeah, for sure.
They don't give him a sombrero a Gundam.
Well, no, that would be saved for Raiden from Metal Gear Solid Rising.
Or G Gundam. Good old Tequila Gundam, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So I mean, they get the map and all that, but like,
yeah,
inherently, it's one of those things where it kind of becomes trivial because they have, they kind of get the pictures, but the scene is leading to it though is really good because it does show that like Bernie really is starting to become very like close with Al.
Yeah, because you get this great moment of him bringing Al home where he looks at the drawings that Al's been doing at the Cyclops team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not even that, because there's a step first, but I do want to talk about that. He prints the picture of the Gundam.
Yes.
And he goes like, and they laugh about it. And then he immediately gets punched in the face by Garcia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, I get that he gets reamed, and I kind of get why they reamed him, but like, I don't know, a good find's a good find, man. But yeah, so then he takes him home and he looks through, because what I think is important about that is he looks through the pictures and has this positive interaction still after being reprimanded for following Al, right? He followed Al's instincts, went through with it, but he doesn't blame Al for getting reamed by Garcia,
No, he takes the responsibility for it. It's like, that was my choice.
And I think that's really good to showcase Bernie's character, that he is inherently a very good dude, and he does understand his responsibility despite his maybe naivety around real life combat in some scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
But this is when we get to the point where I was talking about, which is that Christine literally tucks the kid in and he's got the Special Forces Xeon patch on.
Okay. So now that we
draws no questions to
now that we addressed this earlier in the episode, and I like had time to like think about it, because what this comes down to for me is, in my rewatch, I really wasn't thinking much about the badges at all. Like, it was not at all on my mind. And so now rewatching it, I have to assume that because the patch is specific to the Cyclops team and isn't like a general Xeon patch, that it's just something that she wouldn't really recognize and wouldn't think to question. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but like that's the best I can think of. And again, it's something I honestly didn't really ever think about with this moment.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't know. It does seem a little contrived just because, one way or the other, though, it still everything else about it is in the style of the Xeon. I mean, the like wing on it is literally the wing on every other Xeon patch, right? It was on the patch that was on Bernie's neck, and maybe she isn't face to face with much, Xeon, like iconography, but it just seemed a little bit, because then it's like, then it starts to be like, well, so like, why is this patch here? And he did, and Bernie just kind of, that story seemed a little weird, it's just like, but like, I don't know, I guess she's kind of horny. So like,
that's okay. So this is the thing. I think there's two ways to look at this. One is what I had kind of brought up earlier about, I think these are characters that largely aren't for Christina and for like her family, in that she truly views her life as a Federation pilot and her life as just like a suburban 21-year-old as separate things. And I think at this point, she's still very much convinced that she has managed to successfully keep those lives separate. And so it's not at the forefront of her mind. And I think the other thing to acknowledge, they don't really play heavily into this. They do a bit with her relationship with Bernie. But yeah, I think there is something to be said that there is probably a bit of her being a 21-year-old going on, where she's still relatively pretty young and is kind of just thinking about, oh, this is just a kind of a cute guy who is apparently Al's older brother from like an estranged relationship. And he's like kind of cute, nice seems kind of protective of Al, which in itself is like an attractive quality. Yeah. And I think that is kind of overriding any suspicion that she should have.
Yes, and that's why it's not like it ruins everything. It's just where I was sitting there questioning and just kind of being like no question about it though, like not a single one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if she were gonna like blindly take a naive, you know, approach to it, to be like, you know, if she were to ask and he's just like, yeah, the kids at school, he's telling me the kids at school have been getting really into these things or whatever, like they play war games or something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But like if he made something up, but like it just doesn't come up. But
okay, I want to get to we're already running here, and there's still a lot more that we have to cover. I want to get to, there's a couple key points in this episode that I want to touch on just like super quick. Al going back to school, drawing the Zaku, and the other kids being like, why are you drawing the enemy?
Yep.
You know, mobile unit. And this being the moment, because we talked about this before, the like neutrality angle of Al not fully understanding like these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. And this is where he kind of gets like more directly confronted with the idea of like, these guys that you're like hero worshiping right now and that are like letting you hang out with them, so to speak.
Yeah.
May not necessarily be the good guys. These might actually be the bad guys. And you have are we the baddies? And you have like a skewed perspective of this. The other thing that happens right after this is the conversation that Steiner and Charlie have when they're sitting on that bench.
Yeah.
This scene, we can't spend a lot of time on it. I wish we could. The scene rules. I love this because it is a conversation between two adults that are experienced with the war, that have a much greater understanding of what is actually happening and what is at play, and are finding this kind of like brief moment of respite to sit with each other and be like, we know our position in this. We understand that we are pawns. Like we are not here to be the grand war heroes. We're basically just here to help the greater principality with like finding this Gundam. And there's a good chance that like Zeon isn't going to win this thing. Like there is a possibility that like, Zeon's not going to end up actually winning this thing. And we don't fully know what that means for our future. And all they can really do in their position is to just kind of be like, well, you know, the colony's nice. It's a great thing that, again, it's a nice juxtaposition between the adults and the children here about like their understanding of what's going on.
Right. Exactly. And we do get the interesting that, like, you know, Dorothy does defend Al, and that's like clearly this like implication where like she does have that kind of bias towards Zeon a bit, but like, you know, it's like a 180 because she's just like, oh, like I see that he's on the same side. And, you know, while they don't maybe like grasp that, it's just, that is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we can kind of skip to Al's going to try to get into the base the next day.
We have the whole mission that's going to be carried out. But the mission's
about to happen where they're going to blow. Their plan is to blow the base up. So
that's the idea. If they cannot get control of the Mobile Suit Gundam and take it for themselves, the plan B is to destroy it and everything around it.
Yes, thus Bernie is like, stay the fuck away from the base.
Don't go to the base. Like, I don't mean to make light of this, but it is very much in that vein of the like, don't go to school tomorrow type situation.
But now, granted, I think he could have stood to be like, and granted, you know, he doesn't. I know he doesn't know that he could just like maybe fully trust Al, but he should kind of. I mean, I think some realms of it should showcase that like he's kind of on your side clearly, and at least you could have lightened the blow and been like, you know, like this is, you know, I do think he kind of handled it somewhat the best he could. I was just saying, like, I felt like he could have and like, I mean, but this is the difference between him and the commander, right? Where it's like, instead of kind of giving him that little bit in so that he doesn't feel overly curious and and also like almost like kind of rebellious about it and to do it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, he just shuts him out because he's panicking, especially, you know. But yeah, so they move forward with it. Again, Al, pretty smart kid, sets up this meeting with this professor who is actually designing the mobile suit, but obviously is keeping that secret from the press, which is made very clear with the interview that he cancels to talk with with Al. And you know, like when they actually engage on the base, he swipes the professor's ID card.
Historians will widely regard this as a bad move.
Yeah, but he does it. I mean, and he's sly about it, you know. And unfortunately, the operation goes tits up, as they say.
Yeah, I think that's a very good way to summarize. Things immediately go awry.
Also, the Federation blows up the school. Really interesting concept of just like, wow, way to miss.
And this, bro. Dear viewer / listener, I hate to say it, but this is not the only time that a school is destroyed by a mobile suit in this series. Instead of just being able to say that happened, we have to put a 1 on the school destroyed counter.
True. I mean, it is the same school. I think it just gets more destroyed later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so operation goes tits up. Garcia tries to destroy the Gundam, dies in the meantime. Aldo is nearby and does watch not only Garcia
he sees the whole battle, like a lot of the battle go down. Yeah,
he watches himself self-detonate.
Yep.
But you know, Chris does take the Gundam out, takes it out for the test drive, and unfortunately for the Xeon squad, very successful. Want to make a quick shout out though to the awesome sound effects of the firing of of it into it. It is just an iconic sound,
audio visual treat. This encounter, yeah.
But they do blow up the base, but it does not destroy the Gundam, which is very important going into the next 2 episodes.
The Gundam drops its weighted armor instead.
Yeah. Well, that's before the explosion of the base is out of the way of the Gundam, but
yeah.
So going to the next episode, Admiral Forehead
yes,
secretly sets up semi-coup to be able to launch a nuke at Side 6. Because he's like,
hey, we got nuclear weapons.
This Gundam.
Let's
destroy
put
this
them
Gundam.
to use.
Yeah. Fuck the being cool in this war anymore. I'm gonna break the rules. But yeah, so and then like I like how the detectives press do press Christina about the fact that they showed up when the mobile suit showed up. But you get a very gnarly view at the pilot seat without ever seeing him, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is very, like, the visuals of the destruction in the show are really like the selling point, right? The show does a great job. They don't hold back. Again, that.
Despite it being from the perspective of a child, they don't. This never. The actual perspective of the show doesn't stop being consistent with, you know, the rest of the Universal Century shows.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't soften anything. It's very much still in line with those other shows.
Yeah. And we do get our first taste when he gets to the school of kind of the reality starting to set in for Al, because, you know, he remembers everybody dying and it really weighs on him. So luckily most of the episode can kind of get moved around a bit because, you know, Bernie learns about the nuke that they're going to launch on side 6
on Christmas.
He says, yeah, on Christmas of all times. But then
and the idea kind of seems to be breaking down that, like, it's either they manage to successfully beat the Gundam or acquire it beforehand, or Christmas Day comes and then the Zeon forces are going to nuke the entire colony.
Yes. And
so, like, Al's really holding on to that optimism of, like, they'll be able, like, Bernie and the Cyclops team, the rest of the Cyclops team, they're going to be able to figure something out before that happens.
Right. But Bernie, because he's the last one and he's honestly very green, he does not hold that optimism. And does plan to leave to Francesca. Now, this is one note where I want to make, which is that, you know, I will note this is not a conversation where maybe Christy would have necessarily clued in to Al's involvement or anything, or suspectness, but, like, it is a little weird to just be like, when he's just like, hey, if you knew everyone was gonna die, what would you do?
Listen,
it's a little weird, but, like, I do kind of get it.
In the long history of hypotheticals, this is pretty up there in terms of like, if you ask me this, I'm gonna look at you with a bombastic side eye and be like, why are you asking me this?
Yeah, no, I feel like I would be like, why? Even just from a concern standpoint, right? Like, when I was a kid,
this is
right. When I was a little kid, well, and it's like when I was a little kid, right? And I'm like, because let's look at it in perspective, right? Like, when I was little, I was scared that, you know, we would have nuclear war, right?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, the talk of nuclear missiles, and you learn about them. And I would get, you know, and you get scared about it. And I'm sure plenty of people who grew up in the Cold War had very similar aspects when they were kids, where it was like, you know, I had to ask my parents, like, what do I do if, you know, the town is destroyed from a nuclear blast, you know? And in this timeline, at this point, colony drops have already happened. So the concept to think like, you know, hey, if you knew, now, if you like, or like, what would you do if you knew that the colony was going to be dropped or whatever? You know, it's not the most far-fetched thought. I think the question kind of semi goes into, though, if he's like, what if you knew something bad was going to happen to the entire colony? Then I'd be like, why are you saying it like that? What makes you think that? You know, and that's a basic question to ask. Why are you asking that? Like, why does this work? Why are you? Because even from the aspect of like, you're a kid, I don't want you to worry about this. Why are you asking me about if something bad is going to happen to the colony? Right? I that's always the best way to start it. Right? Have them tell you what's on their mind. She doesn't even do that. So, but I don't fully put it against her, because I'm like, you know, he is just kind of being like, you know, after a big battle just happened, what happens, you know, if everybody else goes down, you know? And she's probably like, all right, he's scared from last night. I'm just going to talk him down, you know? It's when he goes to the police and like, they got nukes. And they're just like, yeah, beat it, kid.
Yeah, you gave us a runaround before with the whole your brother and the warehouse, and scram, kid, get out of here.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, I'd be like, scram, kid, but also I'd be like, maybe we look into it. And maybe they did, to be fair, because of what happens. But like, you know, it's kind of like, we're obviously not left with the idea that they did pass that tip along to higher ups, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, Al does get, you know, Al obviously, so then they flip because Bernie is ready to leave. And first he sees a girl that he thinks is Chris because, you know, they look very similar.
And it's just some woman
drunk
being
at
like,
the
God,
airport.
this colony that conveniently is the same one that Bernie was planning to go to sucks.
Yeah. Well, she's specifically though, like, you know, how could you leave me? Everything you said is a lie.
Yeah.
And it's just hitting all
She's
the
got
things.
a whole nother story going on.
She does. But it's hitting Bernie close to the chest, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So he realizes they flip. He realizes, damn, I need to, you know what? Like, I need to commit to this. I need to help people. I can't let the people that I've come close to die and I run away, you know? So, and then we also learn Al's dad's coming back. So apparently they were separated from some disagreement and they've permanently reconciled. Or they made up for good, however she words it.
Honestly, don't worry about it.
You know what? Hey, we love to see it, man. Hey, you know what? The Parent Trap works for everybody sometimes. Sometimes the parents do get back together. It happens. Anyway, he does get a call from Bernie and they're like, yeah, we're going to do this. You know,
Bernie changes his mind. He returns back to the colony and he's like, I'm going to try to fight the Gundam.
So the next episode mostly is them getting pieces to get the Zaku built back up.
Yep.
Al plays the childish, like sad, like soldier child card again or some kind. And you know, they get ready. They get ready to build some like distractions and shit in the forest.
You get a nice montage of them, you know, putting stuff together.
And then, you know, Al does a nice Christmas Eve prayer for everyone's safety.
How'd you feel about this moment?
I was like, this is very of the time.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a very of the time move. Well, this is when Christianity was really starting to reach in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Kind of had, but like, it was like, it obviously, I think there is definitely some remnants of the kind of the Christianity movement in the, you know, Christmas is becoming more popular at this point, right? KFC is only soon to become a household Christmas meal.
We'll get to that.
Not a joke.
We'll get to that, and that's also not a joke.
Yeah. But yeah, so Bernie, they're, you know, essentially though, the idea is that Bernie's going to kind of end up handling everything on his own, and Al's going to see his dad, but everything's going to end up being okay, right? That's in Al's mind. That's how it's going to work. Bernie's going to handle everything. He's going to save the day, and everything's going to be okay. So he's in a great mood. Bernie's a little nervous, but Al's in a great mood. And that he's a little nervous about everything, obviously, but like he starts in a great mood. I should note. Then he gets really stressed because he learns, oh, hey, they found the ship with the nukes on it.
The nuclear warheads?
Yeah, they figured it out.
Actually, not a big deal anymore.
Yeah, the Federation caught them. They got caught. They probably found it because they saw the reflection of the dude's forehead.
It's a good thing nobody's about to go into a big fight in order to prevent those warheads from arriving because they've already been captured.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
Hey, Al, do you know anyone for whom this information might be important to know? Well, anyway.
Yeah, so unfortunately then the big battle takes place. You know, Christina gets in the Gundam.
Can I address something real quick? It's just super quick.
Yeah.
Because you brought up Killing again and his giant forehead.
Yes.
We don't find out what happens to Killing, right?
No, we don't.
In the series.
And I semi-appreciate that because, again, we're not getting more than we need, right? Everything about this series is you are getting everything from the perspective of this colony, and that's it. Everything is just learning that, like, what's happening here. You only get that little bit of dramatic irony, right?
Okay. That's good to know that that's how you feel about it, because you don't get any kind of closure in this series about like what happened with him.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to maybe know, or do you prefer to just kind of keep it that way?
No, I'm fine with knowing.
Okay.
It didn't like turn off my opinion of the series.
Because here's the thing. It's weirdly hasn't been like fully confirmed what happens with Killing.
Sure.
The closest that we have gotten is artwork from a Mobile Suit Gundam official art book that implies that he either committed suicide and shot himself in front of a portrait, or that someone else potentially murdered him.
Interesting.
Either way, he is no longer alive, but the question of like how it happens isn't fully confirmed yet and hasn't been like shown in any like official Gundam anime or anything. So in a lot of ways, it's still a mystery. You still don't really get an answer, but there was a specific piece of art in one of the Gundam art books that seemed to like address that moment.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so unfortunately the Zaku and the Gundam do fight while Al desperately tries to get Bernie's attention.
Poor guy is just trying to stop it,
all the
and they are already fighting.
And I mean, all the traps are going off. Dude almost gets shot.
Yep. Chris is in the Gundam Alex at this point. She has no idea that Bernie is in the Zaku.
No, they just look at each other, and he doesn't know she's in there. They just look at each other as the enemy, you know?
Yep.
And you know, and then we reach the big scene where they slash at each other. Bernie goes for the head, but unfortunately Chris knows where to strike the deadly blow, the true deadly blow, which is in the cockpit.
Right, because of she kind of like stabs it through the cockpit and the torso, hitting the reactor inside of the Zaku.
Yeah.
And it's perfect. The way the music builds and builds and builds. And then you get this prolonged moment where they both connect with each other, and it just cuts out. It's just silence. And the Zaku explodes.
Yep.
It goes kablooey.
And unfortunately, that especially leads to, first of all, no body being found, but second of all,
Chris is alive, injured but alive. What about the Zaku pilot?
Oh he exploded.
He is, as quoted from them, he is a pile of hamburger.
Yeah.
Which is a very blunt way to put that, but also makes sense. It ties us back into that discussion about like this being from the perspective of a child, but otherwise everyone is still treating this with the level of like seriousness and realism that it would have. Where it's like, yeah, the soldiers are going to be like, yeah, no, we just found a bunch of meat in there. There's nothing left of the guy.
Well, and he sees then that the Gundam pilot was Chris.
Yes,
And he
this is
just
also when
goes,
he and he puts it together in his mind what has just happened.
yeah. And he just goes full catatonic. I mean, it all
Yeah.
hits him hard.
It is a horribly traumatic experience to go through. The culmination of all of these things that he has witnessed in a matter of days, and to just have this horrible event happen, everything gets put together at once, and yeah, it just goes into complete shock.
Yeah. And Bernie, he gets to because unfortunately he dies. Bernie left him
The tape,
a tape
to
and
watch
everything.
if he dies. Yep.
Yep. And he confesses everything, but it's very heartfelt because it's so sad because it's just there's just so much dramatic irony, knowing how everything could have been avoided.
Yep. And Bernie himself being like, I don't fully understand why I'm continuing to fight or feel that I need to fight the Gundam. I'm a soldier.
Yep.
When it comes down to it, it's just I'm a soldier. This is the life that I know. This is the type of life that I understand, and I don't really know another way. But by the time that I've spent with you, with Al, has kind of given me something of an opportunity to live an alternate life, to like see an alternate vision of another life I could have had if not for the position that I'm in.
Right. And then unfortunately when he wakes up, he's got to say goodbye to Chris, who's going to be leaving.
And Chris says, "Hey, tell Bernie I said hello."
Yep.
And poor Al is just like, "Oh
he's
my
like,
God."
He said he was sorry he missed you.
Yeah. Oh,
but
it's the worst.
Man, and then but that school scene, man, it's just
yes.
It's so hard to like look at him and just be like, because you don't get it at first, right? Especially if you're younger, right? You're just like, oh, he's like, he's crying after this fight or whatever, and it's just like, it's because as he's looking at this school, he's seeing everything that he's seen now, and these dumbass kid friends of his are like, yeah, a war is gonna start soon, bro.
Don't worry, Al, there'll be another war to replace this one.
Don't worry, Al, I know you just faced like horrid trauma, bro, but like, don't worry.
As the camera pans out and like the happy-go-lucky music chimes in.
But like, that's the thing, right? It's this juxtaposition of just like this really terrifying thing, but then like, this is also just kind of part of life, and it will move on.
This is the capstone of the entire series. It is the message being hammered home. When I was rewatching this last week, the thing that sprung to my mind, it reminded me a lot of the Twilight Zone. For multiple reasons. The abrupt, very dark, cynical nature of this ending that is like very reminiscent of a lot of Twilight Zone episodes, where they are usually this like, there's science fiction, horror, fantasy elements, and then at the end there's this sort of hard lesson about humanity that's being put on display. And a lot of those episodes don't end with happy endings. They end with their characters being in positions where they are worse off than they were before. And then you have that moment where Rod Serling kind of comes in and is like, and so this is what happened here, and these are the kind of things that you can expect in the Twilight Zone. And, it zooms out. And the ending of this really reminded me of that, because it feels like somebody walking into frame, turning to look at you, kind of the way that Bernie does in his tape, and being like, this is the everyday. This is the normal, the new normal for the people that live in this world. And the story that you saw here is happening all over the other colonies. It's happening on Earth. It's happening in space. This is just a single perspective you saw, but it is the normality that exists everywhere in the world of Mobile Suit Gundam. And it's heartbreaking. Yeah. It is truly heartbreaking. It is a horrifying ending where technically your hero or your main character came through alive and with some perspective, but at the cost of like utterly shattering their worldview.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it is innocence, you know.
Yes.
And you know, that's just yeah, it just does a very good job at that, you know.
Mm-hmm. I said it when we first started the discussion there, but I am thrilled that this series overall holds up. One of the things I was worried about is whether or not I would have a feeling that like I was being hit over the head with the metaphor and with the story that is trying to be told here and the overall theme of like war is bad. Like if it would become like obnoxious how much that is
Yeah,
like an important part of this. And I don't feel like that ended up being the case. I think it is still a very well crafted series overall. And I think it holds up really well and does a good job of telling that story. I obviously, because I have some level of empathy, like I hate that this is where we leave off with pretty much all of these characters. That you
sure.
know, this doesn't that they don't get a happy ending. That things have to turn out this way. But I
Yeah.
respect that that's the story that they needed to tell. Like that's how things needed to turn out to convey the
Not
message of what they wanted to get across.
right, and not only that, but what I also really appreciate about it is, um, you know, 40K has really taught me to understand and really appreciate the the ending without the bow on it, right? I was always
Sure.
very much, I like my stories to have, even if it was a dark bow, even if it was, you know, a black bow versus a nice pretty bright red one.
Even if the bow had spikes on it.
Yeah, I wanted a bow. I wanted a clear loop of the, you know, the story circle, right?
Yeah.
And 40K has really taught me how to appreciate not getting that, right? Because many stories in 40K end with, you know, but then there would be more war, or but
Mhm.
where's the control? Was the corruption truly gotten rid of? You know, so you know, watching this now, I think I would have a way better reaction. Say if I watched this, like, you know, if I had watched this even like say like 10 years ago, and I probably would have been more like, well, I would like to know more things. Like I probably would be more like, what happened to Admiral, and you know, what happened to Admiral Forehead, and what
Mhm.
you know, what happened, you know, and like I want to know more about, like, you know, how does side 6 go?
Yeah. Does
But
Al
like
grow
I
up to
don't
be a pilot of his own? Like, yeah. How did?
something just, but I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Like now I'm like, I don't care. I saw the story as it was. This was the story. The
Mhm.
story,
Yes.
and in a way, it did get a bow. It got a bow with the message of what it is trying to achieve,
Yeah.
and that is what I'm okay with. You know.
And that's there you go. That's
Yep.
it. That's Mobile Suit Gundam 0080 War in the Pocket. There is a playful irony in that this happens so close to the end of the 1 year war. So for as much as we talk about like this representing the like the new normal and what you know is to be expected in the Gundam series, it is also technically just predates a period of like peace. But we'll also when we reach the point where we can get into like Gundam Zeta and Double
Mm-hmm.
Zeta, you know, we'll be able to get kind of a better understanding of like what the
Sure.
immediate future meant
Yeah.
for the Universal Century timeline after this.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that's War in the Pocket. I love it, but obviously not because it's like fun. More so just because it really nails the story that it's trying to tell, and the characters are endearing. Pour one
Mm-hmm.
out for you know Bernie Wiseman, one of the best to ever do it.
Yep.
He was a real one.
That's right. And then also pour one out for this episode because it's over too.
It's also over.
Reaching its conclusion. Yeah, I mean, this is a great series. I definitely am excited for plenty more to come. You know, I think I definitely think that when we get into Zeta and stuff that it'll be still super interesting. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to more. I still, I'll be honest, like I know you definitely want to push some stuff for more UC stuff, but I think what I've actually found the most surprising is when we first started, I was really into wanting to kind of be very UC heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we had to immediately leave the UC, I will note, I actually really like being outside of seeing the different timelines that get made, you know?
Yeah.
I actually do really like discovering these like completely new worlds of Gundam. So like, I mean,
we'll have plenty of content still to dig through, and as far as these other alternate timelines.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you know,
but until that
fighters and G Gundam and Iron Orphans and
G Gundam, man, that'll be interesting. I am pretty excited for that though. Like Dragon Ball Z Gundam is going to be, I feel like is going to be pretty fucking epic. In like all the best ways. But yeah, so tune in next week. We're gonna return to Warhammer. You know, I'm gonna note for the next couple weeks, because we're gonna be inching closer to our time of kind of our holiday season. We'll kind of take a small holiday break because of obviously various holidays coming up. We will we'll kind of be hitting a somewhat end of season, and thus I have a plan for our last episode of the year. And so but I want to do a couple things to prep for that, and we're gonna get into, I'd say, a fair bit of chaos discussion the next couple of weeks.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's going to get a little chaos pilled up in here.
A little chaotic up in here.
Yeah, a little chaotic. But yeah, they're going to be interesting, though. I think they're going to be very much worth watching and checking out. So for the people that are like the 40K fans watching this to see a 40K person's perspective on Gundam type just like stuff.
And shout out to you, our OG fans.
If you made it this far, yeah. You know, tune in for that, man. There are gonna be some interesting episodes, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, until then, we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.